Hello, everyone. Welcome back. As you might imagine, I'm often asked for recommendations for psychedelic retreat centers. And today I have just that. It's called Psychonautika and it's based in Germany. The founder is called Robert Stefan, who is with us on the call today, and his psychedelic therapist, Francieli Favarim. She called in from Brazil. He was in Germany. And I am in Asia. So it's the most epic of Bermuda Triangles, which caused a few of technical glitches, if you like. So the call did cut out, but we've managed to clean it up as best as we could. Nonetheless, aside from that, the conversation is robust and thought-provoking. We discuss his offering, we discuss the psychedelic retreat industry at large, and of course, the psychedelic industry in itself. I hope you enjoy the conversation as much as we did recording it. Be sure to like, subscribe, and comment below. I can't wait to hear your thoughts on this conversation. Okay, so we have Robert and Francieli, from Psychonautika in Germany. And we are so happy to have a conversation with them today and find out about their very exciting retreat center in Germany. Please introduce yourselves. Robert, you are the mastermind behind all of this. Hello.
Hello, thanks for the invitation, Asha. We had the pleasure before, right? A few weeks ago when we first called. And yeah, what about me? I'm Robert. I'm originally from the south of Germany. And last year, I founded Psychonautika, the Psychedelic Retreat Center, one of the first in Germany. And since then, yeah, it's going quite well. Some internal changes, but for the upcoming year, I'm thinking about developing it a little bit more and also expanding it into different countries apart from Germany.
Oh, I'm so excited to talk to you because we're always looking, personally for me and obviously for our communities. They're always asking for good places to go, and I'm always interested in valuable and efficient and safe places and affordable places to go. So we're so happy to have you at the very top of our list in Europe. So firstly, before we continue, thank you so much for doing that and for offering yourself and for creating such a beautiful space. But we'll find out more about your space in just a minute. Francieli, hello.
Hi. Well, it's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for inviting me. I am Francieli. I'm Brazilian. I am in Brazil right now, enjoying the sunny and warm weather. I am psychologist, and I'm also a psychedelic therapist in my halfway of becoming one.
And that's how you fit into this psychedelic formula, as it were.
Yes, as a facilitator.
Wonderful. Yeah, for our listeners, Robert is in Germany, Francieli is in Brazil, and I am currently in Bali. So the gift of technology brings us together, not only together, but it also brings us to you. So yes, the 21st century is alive and strong.
Yeah, hallelujah. The gift of globalization made you enjoy sun and me rain.
Well, you're most welcome to join us.
Hallelujah. I'm gonna fly to Mallorca tomorrow for a different event with one of our close friends. So I'm escaping it soon. So just a few more hours.
Fantastic. Well, I'd love to know a bit about your journey into psychedelic therapy, Robert. What inspired you to start Psychonautika? Just, some background info. How did you get here?
Yeah, I think that's like always a beautiful question because with psychedelics, because it's such a niche topic somehow, there's always a personal story behind it. And for me, I think with most of people, it's like through personal transformation and also through self-experience. I got introduced, I think, to psychedelics through the internet, somehow through podcasts like Andrew Huberman or Robin Carhart-Harris, so more from the scientific angle, so to say, and what it does to the brain, how it can relieve cancer, and no, not cancer, but depression caused by cancer. And that made me curious. And what like the potential of those substances hold, also like the increase of neuroplasticity. So it just sparked my curiosity from the beginning. And then at first, of course, like in Europe, it's quite illegal. So I started ordering it via the dark web, and then just went on exploration journeys, took some advice from the internet, and it really changed the way how I think and how I see the world, and really made me also, I think that the greatest realization or impact it had was on the realization of death, because in those sessions it really felt like my ego, my small self, the Robert that is sitting here, the founder of Psychonautika, was kind of dying. And what kind of developed out of it was a beautiful unification with the universe, which sounds kind of almost spiritual or religious. And that, in my experience, was so profound, and that I wanted to go further and investigate, not only on a personal but also more on a scientific level, what's behind it, what can you really do with those, not only with the substances but also with those mind altering states. And that was kind of the founding story of Psychonautika. This really like intense personal experience, which made me realize that we're just like a tiny part in this big cosmos, but still connected somehow.
Absolutely. The mycelial network of the universe really makes itself known. That was definitely my experience. And I mention this a lot to our community members. I think a lot of the depression and anxiety we can feel in the 21st century is we kind of just feel like we're free falling, and we're just like, there's no support, nothing makes sense, and we're free falling, and it's kind of like, what happens now? I mentioned this. I had this conversation with a coaching client of mine yesterday, and they have those amusement parks, or they're kind of amusement parks where you're attached to a bungee cord, and there's like this huge net, this like elastic bungee net, where you just fall in and then you bounce back. Well, psychedelic experiences is kind of like that bungee net, where you don't free fall into nothing. You actually have something that catches you, and you learn that you bounce. And then you're like, okay, wait a minute. I don't need to really be so scared. I can actually make this fun. So the fear and the dread and the anxiety turns into, oh, okay, I can actually, turn this life of mine into a sandbox, because there's this net, there's a benevolence in the universe, there's something holding me. And I can then bounce out into the world and perform acrobatics or, whatever. But again, it is important to have structure if we're going to fall into those nets, and it's the same exact structures that are very important during large doses. And so that's why we need people like you guys to provide that net so that we don't kind of fall the wrong way. But the combination of human support and the benevolence of the universe is quite a trip, and it's quite the catalyst for everything we do afterwards. Francieli, I'm curious about your background as a psychologist and therapist. How has that shaped the way you lead the retreats?
I believe, well, from my personal experience to now, I bring more this psychological approach to what is happening, and putting together the psychological theories with what is happening during a psychedelic experience. Because we have like this ineffable experience, right? It's also a measurement in psychological trails and what is happening in this experience. And people has no word to describe some of these events. And then with some psychological theories, I'm Jungian myself, so we can bring like the symbolic understanding and giving meaning to what is happening there, and can lead to a different outcome from an experience, especially challenging experience when we understand as bad trips, but it's not. They are challenging and they are happening for some reason. These memories that it was once suppressed inside our subconsciousness, and it comes up, and then we can talk about it. We can make a meaning of it and lead to a different outcome from this experience.
Yeah, we definitely don't have the language. The words we have definitely fails us. I'm Canadian, and we would always say that, as in the English speaking language, we have one word for snow, but the Inuits have like 27 words for snow. And it's kind of like that. Like, we're missing a lot of words.
We are. We can express in another ways, in the symbolic meaning of it, in arts, in other way of expressing. But it's still trying to connect these words and theories somehow to this kind of experiences.
Yeah, I mean, our brain needs something to kind of hold on to, and when we pierce the veil, it's like we're going into other dimensions that we barely understand, and it's like it's the intangible of the intangible, and when we come back, those words are really valuable for integration. Those words are really valuable when it's like, oh, I've just had, I joke and I say, the cup of tea with Jesus dose, when you have, your meeting with Jesus or whatever, you have your meeting with the divine. And then next thing you know, on a Tuesday morning at 10 o'clock, you're stuck in traffic and you've got laundry and everything is as boring and as mundane as you've known it to always be. And the people in your life probably don't know or don't understand what you've been through. And you have to consolidate the two. And you're like, okay, well, how do I bridge this gap? And that's where words and symbolism and the work that you do really, really comes into play.
Yeah. And also giving some structure, because it's all in this web, as you said, bouncing. And when you give some structure, it makes more sense. And then how can I apply this? How can I bring it to the real life? What I experienced once in these outraged states of consciousness.
Yeah, I can also totally give an example for that, because as you just mentioned, divinity, and also when I said cosmos and God, it seems somehow that through those psychedelic experiences, we can't avoid those kind of like religious words somehow that describe this intangible experience in a profound and also concise way. And also regarding to integration, because I think therefore those words are really necessary. On this psychedelic trip that I on my personal experience that I described in the beginning, I had this feeling that my small I, as I call it, the robot, dissolved, and there was this big I developing out of it, and I called it the will of life. So even if I, as a robot, should die at some point, this will of life, this capital I, is still exists, and just this, and how it sounds really philosophical, but for me, just those few words, the will of life, they help me relax sometimes. Or as you said, Asha, they bring me back. They let me fall into this jumping net and then just like relax, and then I can jump back off of it. And I think this is also the importance of words and concepts also in the psychedelic experience, that somehow we live in a tangible materialistic world, and we somehow have to grab those experiences so that they make sense to us in everyday life.
Yes. I heard the most wonderful description of transcending the human body. I can't remember who it was, but someone said that, in death and when we leave the body, it's like taking off a tight pair of shoes, which I kind of really love. Like, oh my god, shoes are off. But
And then it starts to smell.
maybe yes, but also it's like, what is that? This meat bag, what is it containing? It's our essence, it's our spirit, it's our, choose your preferred word, as you say. And it's like, whether it's contained in a physicality, as you mentioned, or not, it's very, very real. It's very, very real. And this is the thing that you mentioned about acknowledging its ever presence and its potency. So that's really cool. In terms of the retreat, what are the philosophies and the principles that guide your approach to psychedelic therapy?
Me?
Go ahead. Yes. Tell us,
Wow.
Francieli.
It's a good question. I can tell about my work and all the religions and all the approach, all human beliefs, they are true. If someone believes in something, this is the truth for this person.
Mm-hmm.
And we should acknowledge that.
Mm-hmm.
And if someone comes with some suffering, we should also acknowledge that and understand. And through this acknowledgement for whatever the beliefs is, but not putting my personal belief on the other person, because they already have plenty of things to believe themselves. It's acknowledging this and understanding how they can navigate for a better well-being, for a better way of living, and more light, maybe.
Well, they do say the only way to get anywhere is by acknowledging where you are.
Yes.
You have to know, and there's no point in arguing and dismissing and saying, well, you're not there. Actually, I am here, but no, you're not, because then you're not, you have to at least agree with
understand. Yes.
Yeah.
Here is the point you are now and where you want to go.
Yeah, and what I think when you speak about philosophies or principles, I think that I want to embody the principle of individuation.
Love that.
For everyone who's listening to the podcast who doesn't know it, it's a concept of Carl Jung. And I can just quote him that he once said, better be whole than perfect. Mm-hmm. And I think this is what my approach, at least to the retreats, are, that the principle of individuation in the end just says that in a human life, it's about integrating the dark sides, the shadows, the sides in ourselves that we don't like, the emotions that we don't like about ourselves. So all those things that are sabotaging us and holding us back to live a more freer and lighter and also more satisfied life. This is this principle of individuation, to feel whole again. Because I think in our society, with this ever-increasing concept of individualism, we are separating ourselves from other people and also from ourselves. And this is one major thing that I would like for everyone who joins with our retreats to experience for themselves, how beautiful it feels like if you just feel whole with yourself, but also with nature or with the whole cosmos, as it seems.
Yeah.
And this process of individuation, it's acknowledging and bringing to the consciousness all the shadows, the parts we don't accept in ourselves, so we are normally projecting onto others. So I don't feel this on myself. I project on others, and this is the beginning of the suffering.
It is, and it's to be perfect is such a fool's errand. I mean, yeah, good luck with that.
Yeah, true.
And you know how that works,
And the beautiful thing is about we got this concept of don't make mistakes in school and university. Mistakes are bad, and always be perfect, and the A grade student and the A grade worker and A grade employee. But the stupid thing is that from every failure you learn and actually you develop, and this is also like somehow really falls in this narrative of perfectionism somehow.
But it's like, speaking of symbolism and context, it's amazing how many of us often gloss over where fungi comes from or mushrooms come from. They come from decay and rot and things that you wouldn't want to get close to, like manure, for example, cow pats. They come from all the stuff that you would normally avoid, or rotten tree trunks, or whatever it is. That is the process. I even wrote an article about, because technically fungi is called the third kingdom. It should be called the first kingdom, but fungi, the decomposition is what made photosynthesis possible, which made plants possible, which made animals possible. So fungi and bacteria, they were the first ones here, and it's like that death process, that surrender process, that decay, that manure, all the stuff that we're like, I don't know, but it's like, that's where it's from. And the sooner you make friends with that in the external and in the internal, the smoother the ride. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that really it kind of reminds me, but I think the metaphor is beautiful with the decaying and surrendering, and also like recently read studies about mushrooms or fungi being the first kind of multicellular living organisms on planet Earth.
Yes.
So they're really, like, as you said, the first kingdom, and they are part of us somehow, or like out of them developed life. And what do I want to say? That as I really liked, now I got the point back again with the surrendering. It really reminds me of the concept in Buddhism of impermanence.
Yes.
Because the Buddhists say you just suffer because you crave things that you don't have, and you avoid things that you have.
Yes.
And one example is illness or death. Those are things, everyone is ill at some point and everyone will die. And you don't accept the reality as it is, to really quote the whole Lord Buddha. And that's what makes you suffer. Instead of just surrendering to what is, and just accepting your destiny as it somehow unfolds, because there are some main parameters that you really can't change, unfortunately. Until now, maybe AI will change it at some point.
It is what it is, and I'll tell you guys a quick story. We had that huge eclipse back in April at the beginning of the year. And I decided, because, as much as I'm surrounded by psilocybin, I don't use it nearly as much as you would think, because when you need it and when you don't. And it'd been a while, been like a few years since I really had a larger dose. And I was like, okay, well, the eclipse, let's tune in, the energy is going to be potent. Let's, play with the frequency and see what download we get. And so off I go and I do the thing. And the most interesting mantra came through for me that I've used since. And even my coaching clients seem to quite appreciate it. And the mantra was just, I spent probably, I don't know, it was a very potent experience. I spent probably 2 hours saying the word okay in every combination that you could, like, okay, like a question, okay, a little skeptical, okay, accepting, and it's just like, every combination of every possible emotion that you can use the word okay in. And it stayed with me since then, of whatever it is, it's like, okay, like, even if I don't like it, even if I don't like it, it's like, okay, then fine, okay, you know, even if I'm like, because ultimately I can have my emotions about it, but there is a level of acceptance. You know, those two can coexist. You know, I'll have my tantrum and I understand I'm not in control. We're going to have both of those happen at the same time. You know, and speaking of bad trips, you know, I think you probably have heard this as well. Those that have a quote unquote bad trip with enough time after the fact often say that's the best experience they've ever had. It's in the
Yeah.
moment that it's a little bit turbulent and it's a little bit, you know, but afterward, they often say that is the one with the most potent download, the most valuable lessons, the biggest return on investment, if you will. Yeah, then woo, I just laughed throughout the whole ceremony, you know. Would you agree?
Yeah, I definitely, as Francieli said in the beginning, I really like the reframing of bad into challenging trip. Because sometimes during a trip, you can set an intention. And I really love, Asha, that you did it during the sun eclipse. I think it's so intentional and you really want to be attuned with the whole universe when you did your mushroom. So this is also really important to be intentional with it and don't abuse it, because it's still a substance and you can abuse everything. But if you do it with an intention, it's always like better and more goal oriented, or like, let's say, focused. But still in those trips, sometimes you can't control it. And then also in our retreat, sometimes people during their trips and also afterwards have challenging emotions or challenging situations that pop up from their childhood or pop up from their teenage years. And then I think it's what we also do in our preparation sessions. It's how you reframe it in the beginning, because I really also like the metaphor of the jumping net there as well, because you can fall down. But then if you have the right guidance or the right techniques, you can also jump back out of it. And always remember, exactly. And always remember all those per se challenging or negative emotions also are impermanent. And in that moment, it's about letting go and also just going through them. So the sun can rise again, to put it metaphorically.
In ayahuasca, it's often it happens the purga, the purge. And during the experience, you know, like people were struggling with this intense cleansing of the body, you know. And afterwards, and during the experience, like, I don't understand why this is happening. It's just the physical discomfort that I'm feeling. But afterwards, it's like, I needed to put out everything I was holding in. So it's also related to the acceptance that, you know, when I accept this medicine to work through me, through my body, will happen exactly what it's meant to be, what is meant to happen. And if you just let it go and you surrender, you will pass faster from this experience. And afterwards, it's like, I needed to put out. I was holding too much inside.
Yeah, it's the better out than in philosophy, which I'm always a huge advocate of, you know, or for the Buddhists, it's, you know, the flowing river is where the vitality is, you know, stagnant waters, you know, so it's got to keep it moving, you know, it's like, otherwise the water will get stagnant and then you'll have a whole other set of problems that you really are actually quite worse than the, you know, momentary experience of the flow through, you know.
If the water is stagnant, the bad mushrooms will come to you.
Don't say that. There's no such thing as bad mushrooms. There's no such thing. You know, I consider, like, ayahuasca, you know, Mama Ayahuasca, everybody knows that. And I consider mushrooms are besties, like the Smurfs. I only just realized a couple of years ago that the Smurfs are psychedelic, you know, with the blue and the white.
Yeah.
I was like, hang on, I've been watching the Smurfs since I was a child. I didn't, you know, the Smurfs are psychedelic. I love it. And Iboga, I find that that's the, oh no, daddy's home energy. Iboga is very strong. and it's a very masculine
Energy.
like stern, potent, intense 12-hour reckoning. Iboga is a reckoning. And psilocybin is like, hey, cool, all of our friends are here.
Oh yeah, psilocybin is like the Smurfs. That's a really good association with that.
In your website, you mention the psychedelic renaissance. How do you envision this movement influencing mental health and wellness?
Oh wow, that's a big question. How I envision that?
I'm putting your neuroplasticity to work here, Robert.
Yeah, that's true. Let's see how my brain functions. Unfortunately, didn't take a microdose from Microdose Pro today, so I'm pretty sure it doesn't work.
You should have. What can I say?
So like we offer those psychedelic retreats because I think the experience is so valuable in itself. But of course, I think almost everyone who works in the psychedelic space has this broader vision behind which has the goal of normalizing the psychedelic experience on the one side in the broad public, and on the other side, helping people who have mental problems like depression or anxiety or OCD, helping them alleviate their pain and their suffering. And the better questions, or like the best question, is more like not what, but actually how you can achieve it. And I, for my part, also think, because they've been demonized for 5-6 decades since the war on drugs was announced by Nixon, that you somehow have to de-link this image of drugs from psychedelics.
Yes.
Because then they get put in the same category as fentanyl, as cocaine, as amphetamine, and
alcohol, coffee.
Alcohol, caffeine, nicotine. This is complete
sugar.
Madness. Yeah, sugar, and this is complete madness. And I think this is what should be achieved. And how is really, I think, really difficult. So in America, they started 2020 with psilocybin in Oregon, and they also did, I think, last year in Colorado, and now, or like psilocybin and psychedelics, and now this year they got rejected, the license from the FDA for MDMA. And I think also partly it was because Rick Doblin, the kind of founder of the MAPS Association, which is like the biggest association for the normalization of psychedelic drugs for in America. And I think because he has like this end goal of legalizing psychedelics for the general public. And I think that America, and also definitely not Europe, is ready for that. I think the first step is definitely to go on the scientific trail and put it under the academic rigorousness of scientific research, so that it can be accepted in this framing, so to say. Because I think that's the easier way to convince someone that psychedelics are not just drugs, but are actually medication. And I think this is like, so if we talk about the vision, I think more about the strategy than the end goal. I think the end goal for everyone working in this space is kind of clear.
Francieli, do you have any thoughts? What's your perspective on the whole psychedelic renaissance?
Wow, I believe we live in a world, in a society with rules and laws, and we have to respect that. Because it's how the Western world works. Do you hear me?
Yeah. Now you're back.
My Brazil connection. So, like, we live in a world with laws, like this is the politics. So since Nixon started the drug war, it's how it works. So the trials, they are necessary to prove the efficacy of the psychedelics in mental health and improvement of well-being. Also to understand for which kind of people they can, because it's not which kind of people can really help. I don't know if I make myself understandable, but it's like the trials, they are important to prove to the politics which kind of people can be helped with these substances. But from another hand, from another perspective, we have the indigenous people using the substances for centuries with a completely different perspective. And as Westerns, we are trying to bring this knowledge together and witnessing like the Western and trials and this perspective with indigenous perspective. I think this is when we mixed up, because they are seen just as drugs, but they are not drugs. They are part of ceremonies and rituals for people all over the world, like people who has the knowledge about how the substance works. But then we have to prove to politics how it works. And it's not from their perspective, but from a perspective that those people will understand. I don't have an idea how we can put all this together, but I think we should learn more from people who's doing this, from their lives. But anyway.
No, I agree with you 100%. I agree with you because I think that science is busy catching up on what we've always intuitively known. It's kind of like we get the scientific, NCBI medical reports, research. Psilocybin has an impact on depression. And we all read that and we're like, yes, we've been trying to tell you. So, psilocybin has an impact on women's health. Yes, we've been trying to tell you. So they're playing catch up because we've created, the citizen scientists have created enough hype to legalize and decriminalize these compounds and substances. But then on the flip side, you've got this mad gold rush of everybody wanting to get in, the Renaissance, right? So it's like, it's the gold rush of our day and everybody's selling gummies and everybody's doing the thing. And then it's like, there's all of these controversial articles about like, well, this retreat center is not really doing things in a kosher way. And then some of these suppliers are not really using actual psilocybin. They're just, it's just THC in it or whatever. So you're kind of hearing like, nonsense in terms of what's actually out there. And I find in my antidote to this has been a phrase that I've kind of come up with, which is each one teach one. And I really encourage all of our community members to pass on all of the good habits that they've learned either with me or in their own experiences to the next person that's interested or curious about integrating psychedelics into their lives on a micro or macro level. So that if somebody at the dinner table or at the office water cooler or whatever the situation is says, well, actually, I'm kind of thinking about whatever, pass on the right information, because this is how we're going to limit regulation. This is how we're going to actually keep control and manage and limit the amount of unpleasant experiences and other nonsense, because we have to really manage it from the inside, because we don't want regulation, because regulation just doesn't necessarily understand unless you've done
education.
Education, oh yeah, definitely a good one.
Education is not forbidden, and we should be talking about it. How to have a safe experience, how to integrate this. But this is what we can do now.
because also there's you mentioned when we talked about mental illnesses and depression, and also I went down a different rabbit hole, which recently where there needs to be more studies done, but it's actually about Alzheimer and dementia. That actually microdosing could help people, that could help prevent dementia and also help people who already have dementia to alleviate the suffering and also make their brain function in a more in a more complex way again, which is completely outstanding, because those are the mental health issues of
I
the
know,
generation.
and my selfie thing is my battery's dying.
Yeah.
I don't know why my bloody battery's dying. I know it's all falling apart on this side. I'm listening. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, that all the mental health issues that our generation will face, like depression and also like dementia, which are rising and increasing, could actually be solved with psychedelics. So also, hey, hands down to what you do, Asha, and Niels and Gino with Microdose Pro. I think microdosing, in my opinion, is a really beautiful tool to be more creative, productive, and also enter the flow state way smoother and faster during the day. So it really helps me with my work. So also have to say thank you to you that you're
Well, it's an introduction, right? It's it's a way to put your feet in the water before you go and have a retreat. It's like, okay, just just like one step at a time. Like you'll get there. There's no need to rush into that situation. So we're kind of the baby steps into the experiences that you provide. And which kind of brings me to my next question. What sets Psychonautika apart from other retreats available in Germany and Europe?
Oh, that's like a really, really easy question, actually. Because as you mentioned, some retreat centers, I don't know, as you said, THC instead of psilocybin. And for us, that's why we work together, me and Francieli, and also another one is in our team as a retreat leader. A facilitator, her name is Evelyn. And we are a team of like Francieli and Evelyn as a particular. They're practitioners of psychedelic therapy. And they studied it. And I think you can talk more about that. So this is what actually sets us apart, that we work with professionals who actually studied it in depth and also on a scientific basis, instead of just being, I don't know, I had some experiences on my own and now I can guide. I think it's way more complex than that.
100%. Yeah. Francieli, you were saying.
Yeah. So I was saying that what I have heard from people going to retreat, it's like they don't feel safe. They go to the retreat to have this experience in a safe containment, but they don't feel safe at all. And they are having an experience where people are all the time interrupting or guiding in a way that they don't prefer to be guided, like as if they were doing something wrong, or if they were not achieving some expectations from the guide, or more religious guidance. And this is not people are looking for, and in our retreat we have facilitators that has no religion approach, and it's guiding in more with some evidence based in how to do it, that it brings better outcomes for people. So I should say that this is the what it makes Psychonautika different from others.
And what about?
I can also
Go ahead.
No, you want? I can also say when I started with the first, let's say, retreat schedule or the organization, I had a lot of one-on-one conversations with Peter Gasser. He's from Switzerland, and he's one of the only persons who can actually work with LSD legally in Switzerland. And he was more or less my mentor, how I kind of set the retreats up. He gave me, like, from his experience of 20, 30 years, he gave me insights and also guidelines what's important, what's his learnings. And from there, I kind of started with the loose or like more strict schedule that follows, or that our retreats are guided. And from there, I just followed on and looked for different psychedelic therapists who are as professional as Peter. And that's how I kind of met Francieli.
So the each one teach one ethos is alive and well.
Exactly. Our space is really small. We kind of have to, we kind of need to work together, right?
Absolutely. So walk me through the retreat process, from the preparation and support, and during the retreat itself, and throughout the integration process. What can people expect when they have, ceremonies with you guys?
When they decided, so at first, we always have preparation sessions. As I mentioned before, the intention is really, really important, and with what purpose or what goal in mind people come to do such an experience. It shouldn't be just random. And also at first, we have a process to decide whether a person is actually also suitable for a retreat, because they're really like strict red flags. If your father, mother, or brother or sister had schizophrenia in the past, they are not allowed to go on our retreats, because this is also the scientific standard. No one is invited to on a scientific trial who has one of those. No, there's only one, but we have like a list of like 6-7 different diseases or mental illnesses that are completely prohibited, to make it safer for them and also safer for us. And then we come to the preparation sessions. They're usually 1 or 2 sessions, each 2 hours, where we just like talk through the person's motivations and what they would like to experience, or what they would like to see or get knowledge about, and to be more, let's say, focused during the retreat, and have some kind of intention which is set back in your unconscious, so to say. And it's also written down. And then after those, and also what we do in the preparation sessions is help people guide through challenging experiences for the trip. So some anchors of safety. That's what Francieli also, when we did our podcast, what also she told me, it's really important. That'd be breathing exercises or visual symbols like a blanket or anything which helps you calm down when you're stressed. This is the reason for the preparation session. On the one side, setting the intention. On the other side, how to cope with a challenging situation during the trip. And then it's one weekend in the end, where we do the retreats in the middle of nowhere in the north of Germany, between Hamburg, Berlin. And then on the day of the arrival, we also have a session where we, like the retreat guides, can meet the participants and also form a group body that everyone gets to know one another better, and that we kind of create a circle of trust and safety, which is also really important. Because also Peter Gasser told me that, like in group settings, it's even better to do it than one-on-one with a retreat facilitator, because it's like a mosaic, and every participant has one experience, but it makes a grander picture, so to say, which why the group setting is actually preferable in his opinion. And so then, that's like what we do on Friday, on the first day of arrival. And Saturday, we have whole day, we have our trip guided by Francieli, Evelyn, and also me, where we take the dose. And then sometimes we do a morning ritual with meditation, breathwork, or yoga. And then we go into the day with music or without music. It depends. We have headphones. And then everyone just lies down and gets to experience and gets to start the experience. And the rest, what happens during the retreat, is a mystery and then a surprise for everyone who attends.
And then you have a pretty robust integration process afterward.
Exactly. And then the next day we have an integration process as a group, where we reflect, where every participant can reflect about the experience. They can journal, they can draw. As we said before, it's important how to make the intangible tangible. And those, in my experience or in our experience, are the best forms of doing that. And then afterwards, we all also have integration sessions which are online, but then after a few weeks or months, sometimes you also have questions or you don't know. Sometimes things just randomly pop up. And then we also have online calls to help the participants integrate the experience really into the daily life. And then this is one retreat from beginning to start. It sounds so simple and so fast and so easy, but it's different for everyone who joins.
Absolutely.
Do you have anything to add, Francieli?
I wouldn't call head flats. I would call contraindications.
All right. Yeah.
That there are some contraindications for people to enter. The preparation session is also to meet these people and to guide and to give some education beforehand. And also to understand a little bit more of their psychological needs and personality, because it can influence. And also this group setting, it has to be, like people don't go there just by case, just by chance. They are there because they are a group, and each one will influence the group session. And this is important. And afterwards, the integration sessions is to make meaning and to offer well-being as an outcome from this experience.
Yeah. I find that it's always really valuable to, I don't know, I guess the conventional term is manage expectations. But, when people are microdosing and they're like, oh, I want to do a hero dose, I want to do the big 5 grams. And I'm like, okay, why?
Mhm.
They're like, what do you mean, why? Like, no, why? Like, what do you think you're going to get? Because, of course, the classic psychedelic one-liner is you get what you need, not what you ask for.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So what are you
Yes.
what are you thinking is going to happen? Because Chet, I mean, we don't know what you need until you need it. The intelligence that will determine what you need is not one that we can understand yet. We know it's real, but we don't understand what formula it's running. So those two things are very much important. And I've found personally, doing group ceremonies, and I find this to be a shame, which is why I'm talking to you guys, because I noticed how you have such a robust integration process. But throughout all the years that I've been involved with psychedelics, and it's about 20 years now with various compounds and substances, you do the thing, you have your cup of tea with the divine, and you share the next morning with a bunch of strangers that you're maybe never going to see again, and you have this whole experience, and the people in your life may or may not know or may not understand, and whatever. But I completely lost my train of thought now. Hold on. None of the ceremony leaders or guides ever called me afterward, like in a couple of weeks after, to say, hi, how are you coping? You know what I mean? Are you managing with the experience you had 2 weeks ago or whatever? And I find that to be a shame. I realize that it's extra work and extra admin or whatever, but I do prefer that they make the effort, because that's really, really where, you're digesting and taking it in, and, harvesting the fruit of the tree is one thing, but you need to process it for consumption and for living purposes, and I love that you guys do offer robust integration after the fact, because it's saying it's necessary is such an understatement. I don't even know how else to explain it.
Yeah.
Like I'm sorry, I will bring the ayahuasca and with indigenous people, because when they use it, they are in a community. So everybody in the indigenous tribe, in the indigenous community, know what is happening and they can talk about it. And the shaman will always be there to be reached and to talk about what happened in the ceremony. You know, they have this community support. And when you just go to a retreat, you don't find this support afterwards, because we don't live in a communities. We live each other in our apartments. We don't have who to talk about it, who could really understand in deep meaning what happened in your experience. So this offering, it's really needed. It's necessary. It's not only, oh, we are offering because we are cool. No, this is necessary. You know, like this community support afterwards, after the experience, having someone to talk about what happened and that can understand you and can acknowledge what happened to you.
100%. 100%. Did you want to say something, Robert? Or did I? No, you're good?
No, I'm just, yeah, I'm nodding humbly.
Yeah, it's you know, so much of this is intuitive, and it's so hard to, again, use language to explain it to those that have not yet had the experience. But once you've had the experience, people can totally relate with what we're saying. But you know, these are the anchors that we need. These are the catalyst. You know, we all want to catalyze, we all want to move through, we all want to embody, all of those things have to happen in the integration process, because that 6-hour period, you know, we all get the cosmic joke. When I take larger doses, the first 2-3 hours, I laugh and I laugh because the cosmic joke is so real. And I'm like, I'm not going to forget it. I'm not going to forget it. Like, I know it. I get it. I understand. And then as soon as you come out, you're like, what was the cosmic joke again? I forgot you know, and it's like a dream, you know, when you're in the dream, you're like, oh, I'll never forget this dream. And then as soon as you wake up, you're like, I'm losing parts of the dream. It's like, it's fuzzy. It's not as crystal clear, you know, and this is where the integration comes in. This is where, because that's a fountain of knowledge that is so rich and so potent that if you're doing it properly, you're not going to need 67 ayahuasca retreats. You know, if you get the message, pick up the phone or hang up the phone, right? And that's what he meant. It's like all the downloads, everything you need is in that first download. And this is why, you know, I love Jamie Wheels so much, because he reminds us that only very, very small groups of people, the clergy and royalty and very, very elite people back in the day, had access to these substances. And if they had access to these divine substances, it was maybe once or twice in their lifetime, maybe. You know, and now we're like doing the thing in Peru, and I'm like going again. And, you know, the shaman's my bestie. I've got him on WhatsApp, and, you know, and it's like, well, what happened in the first 15 sessions? Did you get the message? And that's the integration part. You know, if you do it properly once, it should be enough. You know, but that's my little 2 cents on the thing. Tell me.
I think you're totally right.
Good. Thank you for saying that. I love it when people say that. Yay for me.
It seemed like you needed it. Just kidding.
You're right on script, Robert. You're right on script. I'm curious about the holotropic breathing or the analytical psychology that complements the psychedelic experiences that you offer. Tell me about those.
Yeah, well, holotropic breathwork, it's a potent tool that we can use. And if people are able to navigate this experience in a more profound way, like letting go and surrendering to the experience, to the breath and to music guide, they can experience a psychedelic, they can have psychedelic experiences without the use of any substance. And it's a powerful tool to be used, not during the retreat, because during the retreat they will get the substance. So, but it's something that it could be used, and also as a preparation, for someone who never had psychedelic experience before. This is a great tool to educate people what they can expect, what it could be, how it could be a psychedelic experience. And it's also legal everywhere, right? It's just breathing. Air is legal. So it's a great tool to be used. And the other you mentioned is the analytical. So you mentioned about a dream. This outright state, it's like a dream. And in analytical, not only but it's one way of analyzing dreams and making meaning of what happened, and the message that can bring to your life, to your daily life. So the analytical psychology, it's a way of understanding the symbolism, the symbolic meanings of what happened. Sometimes we just get imagery from the experience. And this energy, they are represented somewhere. And this knowledge, it's already given to us. We can access this, we can understand what the meaning of this imagery. It's a geometric, sacred geometric image. It's an image from other culture. Where can we find this? Which archetype is related to it? So let's make meaning of this symbolic images that it comes to the consciousness, and all of them, it's already there. They are there in the collective unconsciousness that Jung mentioned in his theory. We just access them. And once we access, we make meaning of it in the therapy.
Yeah, it's a language.
Kind of the collective
It's a language.
To stay congruent in your metaphor, Asha, we download from the unconscious cloud the information that we need.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. It's almost like hieroglyphics. It's like, it's pretty pictures, but it's potent in information. Yeah, absolutely.
It's as you said, all the informations, they come in the first downloading.
Yes.
If we can make meaning of it, we can translate this experience. But we are not making meaning of it. We are not translating. We are not making sense.
Yeah. It's kind of like the zeros and ones from the Matrix. It's like, if you're not making meaning of it, it's almost just like digital clutter. But in actual fact, those zeros and ones, if you go line by line, everything you need is there. It's all there. You just need to catch the lines and not leave anything behind, Yeah. Make use of every aspect and every piece available to you, Yeah. I'm curious, what about, how does it work legally in terms of running a retreat in Germany, specifically regarding the use of LSD or 1S LSD? How does that work, Robert?
Exactly. Yeah, that's, I think, the first question that I usually get when we have our consultancy calls. And
the Germans are very pragmatic. I'm sure that it's the first question.
Excuse me?
Germans are very pragmatic. So
yeah. And really rule oriented. And so, of course, LSD, psilocybin, they're both illegal. We work with LSD derivatives, which are actually also, which come from a laboratory in the Netherlands, and they are not illegal in Germany. And the right now, which one is legal is called 1S LSD. And practically, they also do, before they release it or sell it on the market, they test it with rats, and in the body, they found out that there's actually practically no difference to normal LSD, because in the body it gets, how to say, transformed into the normal LSD 25, and the 1S LSD is actually so minor that it doesn't have any impact, because we're also in the microgram range, where the only actual substance that has an impact is LSD or psilocin. So that's how we kind of can do those retreats legally in Germany with derivatives.
Okay, good. All right, so we've answered that question for everybody that's been a little bit nervous in the background. All right.
Exactly. So we just have to wait for 1 hour.
Feel free to comment below if you have more questions. I'm sure you guys will. What are there any particularly memorable moments from past retreats with participants? Anything that, has stood out so far? Any stories or anecdotes?
Well, so one thing that was really memorable to say was, at one point there weren't so many participants, but normally we have like secluded seminar rooms, and sometimes we use headphones, sometimes we use the how to say, we don't use headphones, the stereo system, exactly, the speakers, thanks. And once we use the speakers, we put the speakers on, and all the participants at the end of the trip were kind of really just doing an ecstatic dance and celebrate their retreat and life. It was kind of a cool experience, so to say, because then normally we sit and hold the space, but then we also stood up for a bit and danced with all the participants, which was kind of a really cool connecting experience, so to say, through dance and music. And it was kind of at the end, I think after at 5 or 6 p.m., shortly before dinner, and there was a really cool closing ritual which really just popped up naturally, because one person just had the urge to start dancing, and then the others intuitively just joined, which was, I think, kind of a great ending, just like let go of all the ups and downs, and now it's just about enjoying and being present in the moment and enjoying and celebrating life, so to say. I think that was quite cool.
The dust.
But
yeah.
Excuse me?
Shaking off the dust.
Exactly, shaking off the dust. But we don't force anyone to dance. It really just popped up naturally and intuitively. And then you just go with the flow as a facilitator.
Nice. So what, assuming someone's like, okay, I'm interested, I want like green lights, let's do this thing. What kind of costs can they expect? How does it compare to the costs of other retreats that are similar or kind of, comparable to other retreats in Europe? So, what can people expect to pay for something like this?
So if someone's in, they can just visit our website or can just book at first a consultancy call, as I think mentioned before, because it's really important that we find the right people and the right people find us, so there are no inconveniences. And then what they should expect, with everything included, the preparation, the integration, the retreat, the dining, the full pension, and also the accommodation, it's in total 1,795, that included. And in comparison to, there are some retreats who do it within psilocybin in the Netherlands, which are way higher priced. There's another one in Germany, which is also lower priced than ours, but they don't do integration sessions. And in my experience, and also from the opinions that I heard from participants who went there and also other guides and therapists, they are not as professional as we are. And that's also one of the reasons why we are offering those preparation, integration, and also we want to establish an online community, like a Discord channel for everyone who participated, for more exchange afterwards with other participants. And that's kind of what makes us different, and also the pricing a little bit different from other retreats, because we want to have the whole scope and not just one weekend and now you take a dose, but actually the whole frame which the retreat or the experience resides in the end.
Yeah. And no offense, but you don't have to fly to Peru, which is, you know, a long flight plus jet lag, and more time off work, or, you know, more time out of your life. So the fact that it's in Europe, it makes it a lot more accessible, you know, because I think your retreats are 2 days. 2 days? Yeah.
They have 1 weekend, so you don't even have to take 1 day off, but I think it's better to take Friday and Monday off. But they land on Friday and then it's Saturday and Sunday. So it's 3 days in total.
Yeah. Okay. Great. Yeah. So, you know, especially at that price point, because I've seen stuff for like 5,000 euros. I've seen all kinds of stuff. I was like, wow, you guys are okay. 5,000 is a little bit, you know, so 17.95 is really, really accessible. So on behalf of the industry, thank you.
Yeah. I think also in Peru, it's kind of the ayahuasca tourism that kind of plays into the price, right?
Yeah. 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 So for someone that's on the fence and hesitating, what could we potentially preemptively answer for them to let them know, pull the trigger, this is your time, or perhaps hold off and wait a little longer? What would you say?
What would I say? I think it's if for example, in your case, because we're talking to a microdosing audience, if some in the audience just thought about, hey, I'm new to all the psychedelic subject and I've tried microdosing and it worked pretty well for me in my daily life, and you kind of, I think intuitively sometimes or often in your life have this calling if you're ready. And if it just popped up in their minds, or even if they listen to the podcast, it seems like there's an interest. I think this is a sign. And sometimes it's more about reading the signs instead of waiting for a clear yes. And I think that's what I would say.
Francieli, what would you say?
Yeah, you mentioned the why. I think it's a great question, because I can't answer for anybody, you know, why you should do it, but the person will know why. Yeah. And if the why is strong enough, just join, have a talk, you know, understand how this could be for you.
Yeah, I mean, what I say to people, because, you know, microdosing, again, is very intuitive, and the protocol can be 4 weeks or 6 weeks or 8 weeks, or some people do it for 3 months, and people are like, well, when do I know when I need to take a break? And, you know, and I say something that I realize is very infuriating, but it's the only way to explain it. I just tell them, you'll know. You know, the same way you'll find your sweet spot, you'll know. And they're like, what does that mean? And I'm like, I'm sorry. Like, I don't, there's no other way. Like, because I've spoken to people, they're like, oh, what do you do? And I'm like, you know, I teach microdosing and whatever. And they're like, oh, it's not for me. And I'm like, great. You sound clear. Some people are very clear. And I'm like, great, because I'm not here to convert anyone. I'm not here to say, oh, it's a silver bullet, it's the magic, you know, Cinderella wand with the fairies, and it's like that. It's work. It's a soul work. But when it starts nagging you in your ear and it doesn't let go of you, like with me, I didn't, before my eclipse ceremony, it was in my ear for 2 years, because I'm like, really? Am I sure? Really? It's like, okay, fine. Because there's an intuitive nudge, and it won't let me go until, and that's how you know. But you have to, and I say this over and over to people, pay attention to how you feel. Pay attention. And if you're not sure, journal. You know, you'll know. It'll come out in your writing, but just pay attention to how you feel. And so many of us have outsourced how we feel to professionals, to roles, to cultural whatever's, to legal whatever's, it's just like they're waiting for someone to tell them how they feel all the time. And I'm like, well, you're the only one that knows. You're the only one that knows your entire medical history. No one has body chemistry the way you do. So even the most trained medical doctor can't really tell you. The burden is on you to pay attention to how you feel. I'm sorry. I wish I had a better answer for you. And if the nagging doesn't go away, sometimes it's just a curiosity. And if you're curious, then just wait. It might go away or it might get louder. But it will be clear. Would you guys agree with that?
Yeah, I think so too. I think you just summarized both of our answers. One, like my answer, reading the signals, and then also Francieli's answer, that the people will know. They will know if they know. And yeah, again, Asha, I completely agree with you.
And only then can know. I can't tell.
Yeah.
Exactly. And as you said, if the nagging doesn't... No, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Okay, so yeah, as you said, if the nagging doesn't stop and there's some curiosity, I think you had a really beautiful example in the beginning with the sun eclipse. You knew, okay, now it's the right timing, and you just intuitively know. As you said, when people ask you when do they know, that almost sounds like a really German question, because they always want to be 100% sure. I'm not sure if this was just my intuition, but I think if it pops up a few times and you read about it and you're curious, then it's just about connecting the dots and reading the signals, and then it's sometimes more about giving it a clear yes instead of waiting for a clear yes.
So when is your next retreat? When's the next event happening?
It will be in the beginning of February, from the 7th until the 9th. And the integration or the preparation sessions will start a few weeks before.
And how I didn't ask you actually, how large are the groups?
They're between 8 and 15 people.
Okay. And do you have any helpers, Francieli?
Yes, Robert mentioned the other facilitator who's working with us, Evelyn. So yeah.
Okay, awesome.
We're co-therapy together.
Fantastic. Yeah, because for 8 people, you're going to want an extra pair of hands for that, I would imagine.
For sure.
For sure.
So with us, also with my mentor, he told me, because he also does group sessions, that one therapist for 5 participants. So that was his rule of thumb, kind of. So then we have Francieli, Evelyn, and also me. Sometimes I step in if we're getting over 10 people.
Awesome. Okay. Any parting words of wisdom for those that have listened to us and are considering? Any messages to your future attendees, future psychonauts?
Future psychonauts.
Let me start. So my message is always humility and reverence for the access that we have. Never in the history of humankind have we had so much access to these compounds. And that is a responsibility. And that is something that needs to be taken seriously. We have to be grateful, sure. But we need to be humble. And we need to pace ourselves. It's, the whole stoned ape theory. Did mushrooms help the brain expand, whatever? Before the stoned ape, maybe before, I don't know. But when we discovered fire, that meant that we could eat and digest meat, and that also contributed to the expansion and growth of our brains. But manipulating fire is a very humble endeavor, because yes, you can make a fire and cook your whatever you've hunted, cook your piece of fish or your antelope or whatever it is that you've just got. But you don't want to burn the forest down either, So it's like, you can cook a meal or burn the place down. And I find that these psychedelic compounds are very much of the same potency and responsibility and volatility as well. There is a risk factor. So let's remember that we are the guests on the planet of the fungi because they are the first kingdom. And easy does it. Be respectful, be humble, be patient, and, small bites. Pace yourself, get some good information, research, do your homework, check, and be thorough as you go through, because it's the burden is on you to do your homework. It's on everyone, because again, no one can tell you. The information, mercifully and luckily, is out there more and more, much more than ever before. And so, it's really up to everyone to cross their T's and dot their I's and to proceed with their eyes wide open.
Yeah, wow. Don't know what to add to that. Maybe the only thing is, disconnected. I think the only thing I would add is it's also about courage and taking responsibility, because as you said, it's also work. It's deep inner work, and so I think this is also what every psychonaut also kind of steps into. It's a way of courage and a way of responsibility. But in the end, the rest was like beautifully summarized by you, Asha.
It's definitely soul surgery for sure. It's for warriors only. Warriors only. What would you say, Francis? What words of wisdom would you have?
I would say tune in your intuition. This is value. It's so valuable for us. We are in a world that is taking our attention all the time. We are sharing our attention with social media, with societal rules, with work and wishes that has to be done, and like laundry and all these things. So tune in your intuition, be more present in ourselves, and the answers will come up within you.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
I think one thing, it's also, I have the quote also on the website. It's not by me, it's by Stanislav Grof, that psychedelics are for the soul what telescopes were for physics and microscopes were for biology.
Yes.
And I think that's really beautiful. And I think the world is getting more prepared and more ready to accept and work with this tool as well for their own souls, their own consciousness, and their own psychology.
Yes. And, I'm going to finish off with this wonderful meme, which I'm sure everybody knows, and we'll probably put it up on the screen. It's, I'm sure you've seen it. It's that wonderful photo from NASA of the entire universe with all the different galaxies. And then there's an arrow that says, here you are, crying in the shower or worried about your taxes or whatever, in this small little... so the telescope allows us to see the universe at large, and we must try and, there's no need to cry in the shower. We have answers, but it is work. It is soul surgery. So warriors are invited and warriors are welcome. And, and you guys are the perfect hosts and guides. And on behalf of, again, I keep saying it over and over, on behalf of the industry, on behalf of the community, on behalf of future attendees, thank you for your work.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you really much for the invitation and the loving, grateful words at the end.
Wonderful. I will link Psychonautika in the caption below. and make sure that people can reach you and find you. And I'm a huge, speaking of integration, keep us posted. Part of the homework is that people need to keep me updated. That is part of their duties. So please keep me updated. And the same for your future attendees. Please stay in touch. Make the most out of the community that you provide through Discord. Make the most out of any community you can get your hands on. That's a very important part of the integration process. Stay in touch. And thank you so much. This was fantastic.
Yeah, thank you really much.
Thank you. Thank you. My pleasure.
Yeah, it was lovely.